Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Uncensored. My name is Patty G. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I am your host today for Wellness Uncensored. Today, we're going to be talking about a variety of different things related to anxiety and insomnia. So I'm sure there's lots of you out there that have struggled at one point or another, or maybe for a large part of your life with some of these issues. And, anxiety and insomnia can come from a variety of different things. And today, hopefully, we'll crack the code on some of those, as well as hopefully you'll get some tips and tidbits that you might want to put into your own practice. So wanted to thank you guys for tuning in again. Wellness Uncensored has come into its third year, not by accident, but because people needed to know more about what's out there that's not censored. And my QRS code, if you're able to take a picture of it, will jump you into our website that will show you two books that I've written, one on frozen shoulder and the other one on what happened during the pandemic, things that would probably curl your hair. And if your hair is curly, we'll probably straighten it. But nonetheless, it should be a riveting story for you to see what can happen when the world trusts blindly. And that's a lot about what we're going to share today too, is because how do you think some of these multi-mogul pharmaceuticals and businesses got to be as big as they are? It's mass marketing and making you think that what they have for you is really going to help you. And, there's a lot of things out there that will help you, but there is a capitalization, and you've heard it forever. But a lot of the medications that we use are not necessarily the first line of defense to things that we can handle with a variety of different things that you can do yourself. And interestingly enough, I'm going to be sharing a book with you guys today. We can put that up there if you want, but it's Say Goodnight to Insomnia. I happened upon it when I was at my conference last week before we had our show. And Greg Jacobs, PhD, is the author of How to Say Goodnight to Insomnia. And the funny part about it is how and why we learned about it is because a lot of the work that I do, folks sometimes poo-poo because the first thing that I do for folks is not necessarily put them on medication. I had a patient yesterday that actually didn't seem to like the fact that I suggested that let's get some nutrition, some sleep, some activity into your daily routine to see if we can optimize. And I guess that's where I would say, how many of you like to drive a big shiny new car, or maybe a little shiny new car? And in doing so, yeah, there's the book, folks. Take a peek at it. It's the book by Greg Jacobs. If you have a beautiful car, but the insides of the car are not well conditioned, you can put all the stickers, all the accessories, new rims, and let's compare all the accessories to that car, similar to the body, with different medications. And it is vitally important, which is going to be a part of our discussion today, whether you've got struggles with anxiety or insomnia or any other stressors, really. If you don't get to the root of healing yourself and taking care of your body, sleep, activity, and good nutrition, your shiny, well-looking precision body that you have is going to not work and perform for you because you're not putting the contents in. It's just like trying to drive a car without gasoline. Your beautiful car will sit on the lot or on the driveway, and people will look at it, they'll want to go for a ride in it, but when it doesn't perform, what happens? So performance of your mental state, performance of maximizing your brain to its best potential If you're going to run and say, I need a pill, I need a medicine, I need a higher dose, you are probably going to get some kind of relief, some kind of benefits, maybe, maybe not. But if you think that you're going to get better by just taking medication every day, generally that's not the case, at least not for the mentation, the physiology, and the well-being of your brain and your body. Now, again, let's be clear about what we're talking about. I'm not suggesting that if you have an illness or you have something that you need help with urgently or emergently, there are many life-saving medications. And so when used situationally or acutely or short-term, you are going to get results. And hopefully those life-saving results are what we need. But when you're on a path to heal, just like the original psychiatrist determined through good study and research, it wasn't medicine that first helped the patients. And you're going to hear this a lot today. It was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's talk therapy with a focus and with goals and with follow-up and with behavioral changes. Make sense? So stuff that we wanted to kind of talk to you about today. Anxiety. How do you feel? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel panicked? Do your hands sweat? Are you shaky? Are you nervous? Do you feel lightheaded? The symptoms alone could be a variety of different things. So we have to look at what's around those symptoms. Those could be symptoms of somebody having a heart attack. And oftentimes there's patients that will present to the emergency room in a full-blown panic attack, and they really think that something's going on with their heart, which, again, super important. Don't doubt your symptoms. Go and get it checked out. That's definitely the first thing you want to do if it's something that you're unfamiliar with. But oftentimes patients will be relieved to hear, you had all the signs and symptoms similar to a heart attack, but it was actually a panic attack. And then as they start to happen regularly or more frequently, again, patients become more familiar with it, not liking it, of course, but they certainly are at their wits' end trying to figure out how to get them to stop. So yes, there are medications you can try. There's different things that we can prescribe. But cognitive behavioral therapy, it's not well marketed. It's not produced in mass quantities. And not everybody does it exactly the same. So how do you find a good one? It's kind of like, well, how do you find a good massage therapist? How do you find a good chiropractor? How do you find a good physician? It's generally through reviews, word of mouth, exposure. A lot of times good folks, would put something out there for, hey, this is what we do at our clinic or our facility. So it's a lot of trial and error. Some really well-known folks that do cognitive behavioral therapy, they've done books, they may do lectures. The internet is a great pathway to help you find things that aren't generally advertised or marketed. Again, even for myself, a lot of the work that we do at Magnolia Behavioral Wellness is generally through some local advertising and a lot of word of mouth, a good website, and referrals. So people tend to leave with a good toolkit of things, and they don't always leave with the first line being medication. So with anxiety and couple questions on heart attacks and cryotherapy, we definitely will touch on some of those things. But heart attack symptoms, like I just said, are very similar to panic attacks sometimes. And again, not to confuse the two, my best advice is if you have any kind of pain, non-specific chest area down the arm, or if you're experiencing, heat, hotness, perspiration, shortness of breath, feeling like you're going to pass out, any kind of chest, tightness in that area, it doesn't always mean you're going to have all of those symptoms. You could only have one. But if you have risk factors, if you check your blood pressure and your blood pressure is high, it's always a good idea to get it checked out. Once you've gotten cardiac clearance and they say, no, your heart couldn't be any healthier and your EKG looks normal, those symptoms tend to be more of an anxiety response. And I know tons and tons of people that suffer from anxiety every day. People wake up feeling anxious. And what is it that starts the anxiety going for people? A lot of times it's our body's response to a situation. The situation to anxiety and stress is usually things that are on our mind. And think about it. If I would just sit and had nothing to do, which would probably be next to never, if I just sat and thought for a minute, you could come up with a ton of things to worry about. Not everybody does this, but a fair amount of people do. And then when you get the worrying going, it becomes a very not soothing mechanism, but it's a mechanism that you start to kind of grapple with, like, oh, I've got to go here after work. I've got to pick up the kids. I don't have food for dinner. I've got to stop at the food store. Oh my gosh, tonight's the night. Bills were due yesterday. I've got to get on the computer. I've got to pay the bills online. Oh my gosh, I've got this to do. I've got that to do. I've got to get to bed. I've got an early meeting tomorrow. Like, your list, right, can look like that. So people worry about things. We have to learn how to reset. And so with anxiety, there's lots of different things that we can do that don't necessarily require medicine. A lot of times we talk about journaling. And if you start to write down the things that stress you or cause you anxiety, taking it from your mind and putting it from the pen and the physical act of writing to paper can allow you to release some of those symptoms. And while you're doing that, it's also a great way to go, all right, there's 5 things that I'm stressed about. The first 3 I can knock out between today and tomorrow, but the other 2, it's going to take some long-term planning. It's going to take me saving some money. It's going to take me to do, cut cost or do whatever. But setting up ways to check your anxiety stressors off your list is a really good way to decrease your anxiety. And a lot of people, that's why they come to cognitive behavioral therapy work. It's oftentimes a good way to let a professional help you talk through and bring up what is causing your stress, where is it coming from? And so if you are one of those folks that kind of feels you're a bundle of nerves every day, and you get up and you're at work, you're driving to work, or you're coming home from work, or you're home at night, and then we'll get into insomnia. Throughout that day, all you're doing is stressing and thinking and stressing and thinking. There's physiological things that come along with that. And if you've ever experienced sweating at night, if you've ever experienced trouble going to sleep, those kinds of things can come as a manifestation of thinking and thinking and worrying. And anxiety, if you look at it as a whole, think about yourself when you're calm. Take a moment and let's breathe. Let's go, okay, breathe, deep breath in, and now exhale. And in that moment, you're kind of re-level setting your body. As you do that, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe you don't have time. Maybe you need to get somewhere. But you feel the tenseness in your body, and it may have relaxed for just that moment or two that we did our breathing. Your body is very sensitive to how your mind responds or reacts to things. And what we need to work on doing is getting your brain to stop reacting and respond. Because when we react, what happens? Take a minute and just breathe real fast if you can. If you're alone or if you're in the car, and go, okay, and move around a little bit. What do you feel? You feel energy, okay? And this is just a very silly little example, but you feel energy movement, and you may even get hot, you may get sweaty. That is a physiological reaction to the energy, which can sort of look like what I'm going for is fight or flight. And many of you have probably heard of fight or flight, but fight or flight is when you lock down in a situation, somebody startles you, or something happens, somebody knocks at the door, coast is clear today, the dogs are quiet, but man, if I hear a sound around, I'm like, right? And it's a fight or flight because it's a reaction. Your body reacts to keep you safe. But if you have that reaction, and it happens multiple times throughout the day, and it's really not like you have a reason to be on edge, but you startle easily, you react quickly, you're jumpy, you're just on raw nerve. That means your fight or flight mechanism is a little bit out of kilter. And we're going to talk about the vagus nerve, because if your fight or flight is out of kilter, a lot of things happen. One, you're going to burn a lot of nervous energy. You're probably not going to have a good appetite. You're going to probably feel nauseous. You are always going to be in that hyper hyperdrive mode. You may react quickly. You may be a little more irritable because your body is revving hard. And think about, we'll go back to the car analogy. When your car, you put your foot on the gas and it goes forward. Have you ever put your foot on the gas with the foot on the brake or in park? You can hear that engine rev. It's fine to hear the engine rev, but if you're going to do that and sustain it, you're going to just really churn up the gas. You're going to burn the engine and you're going to power through the fuel and things. And that's what we don't want our body to do 24/7. We generally don't want our body to do that unless there's a real urgency to get something done. Positive stress, positive anxiety is a situation where, you may have a deadline. You may be just at the edge of getting a project done or a timeline, and you've got to get it done. And we call it, it's focused energy. It may be a little nervous energy, but it propels you forward in a positive way that you're hyper accelerated and you're going to be effective. But day to day, many folks live with anxiety with that foot on the gas pedal. You can't get it off, and it's just exhausting. And so where does that lead us? That leads us to fatigue, irritability, these uncontrollable panic attacks. And so what do we do for that? I've got a ton of questions. And some of these things we'll talk about it. Yes, anxiety can be chronic. And how do we get rid of anxiety? Well, our first approach is let's talk it through. Now, you can talk it through to yourself, but talk therapy is a very good way to learn how to reset. What are the best skills for you to get to know yourself? What are the best skills for you to be your most effective self? When you talk to a talk therapist or a psych nurse practitioner, you come in for any kind of therapy, what we're going to do is try to help understand you. And we're going to ask about all those outlying things. Why are you like this? Why are you in fight or flight? We'll ask about, what's going on around you at the time? Is it when you're walking into a grocery store? Is it when you're getting ready to share your presentation with 100 people? Is it when you are about to go into a party? Is it when you're just sitting in a car and you don't really have a reason to feel the way you do, but you're sitting in a car? Okay, then we'll say, where are you going to go in the car? Or what did you just leave that you were doing? So if you're sitting in the car and there's no reason for you to feel that way, perhaps something just happened. Were you in the house? Was there an argument? Were you leaving something where someone said something upsetting to you? Or are you in the car about getting ready to go somewhere where you're nervous, you're not sure, you're uncertain, you're afraid of where you're going to go forward, in a way that brings you anxiety. So the symptoms around your anxious feelings are very important because it helps us dissect what those symptoms mean. And then that's where we talk about treating them, or we talk about what you do to go into those situations. So, perfect example. If you're going to be going into a situation and it's stressful, we do breathing exercises, and in therapy, we'll talk to you and we'll do them with you. Let's do some slow breathing. Breathing is one of the best skills you can learn because it's one you can always use on a fly. You can stand somewhere, turn your back to someone, and just take a deep breath in and let it out. And if you do that between 5 and 10 times, it is going to give you a sense of calm. It's very effective when you're in the middle of brewing up a panic attack where it feels like those symptoms that we're not sure could be a heart attack. And that's another thing too. When you're having those symptoms, how do you determine if it's a heart attack or not? If you can calm yourself down and feel relaxed, your heart rate comes down, you're breathing, the sweating goes away, and you don't feel anything that's giving you rise to say, oh, something must not be right, that's a good way to know that that's panic. However, for all the folks out there, make no mistake, when you have unsettled feelings and it doesn't feel right and it's something new, it's always important to get that checked out first. So just want to clarify that. Couple quick questions people have, cold sweats. Cold sweats could be simple as a hormonal change, or cold sweats could be your body's autonomic nervous system sending you, just like when you're in front of people and you lift up your arms and you're really sweating. Cold sweats could be when you're really anxious about going into something and uncertain, and it's your body's way of re-regulating. So it's a real sympathetic response that allows your body to try to normalize itself. We just were talking about the fight or flight. And we've talked in previous sessions about trauma and trauma response. Well, fight or flight, when you have a fight or flight response, a lot of times what it is, you get cold sweats, hot sweats, breathing's rapid, you feel like it's a loss of control, and they are reactionary symptoms to try to get your body to go, okay, Patty, it's going to be okay. So it's trying to release some energy. It's trying to release some fluid. It's trying to settle things down. Did you ever feel the hair on the back of your neck stand up? It's a response. It's like that tingle, that prickly feeling. And it's usually like when they say, when your hair stands up, your body, just like an animal, is like, ooh, do you sense danger? Do you sense anticipation? What exactly is it that you are experiencing? Because sometimes you can get a chill when you see something that's like not necessarily painful or anxiety producing, but ooh, that's quite astonishing. That's really shocking or really surprising, but it's not necessarily a bad situation. But a lot of times people who have had any kind of trauma in their life will sometimes have a fight or flight response that gets stuck. And so if your fight or flight response is stuck for some reason, we have to re-regulate that. If it's not a trauma, if it's anxiety, it still can be just as debilitating, but there's lots of things you can do. So the other things we talk about with cognitive behavioral therapy is to have images that you can look at, pictures, videos, pictures on the wall, different things that you can send to receptors to your brain to, take your phone and look at pictures that are calm and pleasant and soothing and take your mind away from maybe a stressful event. Even in traffic, okay? How many times do you get stuck on the road that you're sitting in traffic? Those kinds of things can be very anxiety producing. And so if you are starting to have a panic attack or anxiety, or you're starting to feel that fight or flight, again, you're in the car, turn up the radio, change the channel. Sometimes I'll put on spa music. Sometimes I'll put on talk so that I hear other people talking. Whatever you need to do to desensitize yourself from the stressor. Now, where does this physiology all come from in the body? The brain is really what we're here and what we talk about. And so the physiology of the brain, how it regulates, it goes through the nervous system. Cardiovascular is involved too. There's quite a few systems involved, but the nervous system, you've got from your brainstem, it's the largest nerve in your body. It's called the vagus nerve. And that nerve goes along the spinal cord, and it actually will dive into different areas of your body, from the pancreas, the spleen, the liver, the kidneys, all the major organs. You've got nerves that run through your heart. And that nervous system are polarized electrical impulses. So if the vagus nerve is sending out all these impulses telling the body, beware, beware, danger, oh my gosh, I'm uncertain. Think about what happens to each and every one of those organs in your body. They get hyper-focused, they get ready to jump in gear, they go into overdrive. And like your car, when you put your car in gear or leave it in park and you hit the gas, you're revving up. How long is that sustainable to be healthy for the car? Or if you drive your car, at a couple, 100 miles an hour all the time, you're going to churn through the well-oiled, optimized parts of the car that you're going to need replacements. So with your body, it's the same thing. So with the vagus nerve, if that thing's out of whack and it's in fight or flight and everything's all irritated, you need to be able to calm the vagus nerve. Have any of you ever heard of the vagus nerve and vagus nerve exercises? This is an extremely important point that you want to think about for yourself. Calming your vagus nerve. How do you do that? There's lots of things you can do, but some of the stuff I've already told you. Breathing is one. Jogging in place, just repetitive, just jogging in place, like pitter pat, pitter pat, pitter pat, pitter pat. breathing, pitter pat, pitter pat, pitter pat, pitter pat. There's another exercise you can do. I do this with my trauma group all the time if anybody's tuned in. But you bring your arms back like wings and pinch your shoulder blades together. And then as you take a deep breath in, bringing your arms back, you rapidly bring your arms down and fold them with your chin to the chest and exhale like this. And if you do that about 5 or 10 times, that is a vagus nerve exercise. Here's another really cool one. How many of you out there hum? I am not a good hummer. I think I hummed better when I was younger, but if you really put your mind to it, you just start humming. The vibrational energy of humming, even as we speak, there's a vibration. But if you hum, there's a consistent tone as it innervates throughout the body, and it can calm the vagus nerve down. There's other exercises you can do, like just moving your body to like music can be a vagus nerve de-stressor, because the nerve, as it's all tensed up, is going, oh, well, the rest of the body's kind of relaxed and moving, so it will reset the vagus nerve. Just a little casual fun dancing in place. If you're in fight or flight, you're not really necessarily going to be able to find the ability to laugh. But if you can be in a situation and find something to lighten the moment and have laughter, the actual laughter can help to release the vagus nerve too. Other things you can do, anybody ever hear of a cold plunge? Not a cold sweat, but a cold plunge can be very helpful. Or take a cold, have you ever seen the cold packs that they put sometimes with the eyes cut out? A cold pack right on your cheek and forehead area, that has a way of re-regulating, and if you will, chilling, calming down the vagus nerve. There is a pack of cards on Amazon you can get to learn different ways to calm the vagus nerve. This is one by Melissa Romano. I'll have to have her on the show. But it's a great way to use these different exercises to get your vagus nerve to calm down and relax. A lot of them I do with our trauma group, and a lot of them can be very easy that you can actually do at home. I'll just give you a couple quick ones because there's more that I can't remember. But with the different movements. Oh, also too, part of the vagus nerve, breathing in and inhaling aromatherapy. I forgot all about that one. But the olfactory, right? It's an olfactory nerve. So if you can have contact with the nerve that goes right into the brain with the sense of smell, a lot of times if you smell something like a eucalyptus or a mint or an orange or a lavender, pine or fir, the smell of the different things can really calm down that vagus nerve. And why is it important? Because you don't want to have that vagus nerve wearing out your body, wearing out your organs. If you find that you have anxiety, chances are, do you also think that you get tired a lot, you're fatigued? It's probably because you are in that fight or flight, or at least in a panic mode, and you can't relax the body. So again, we go back to the cognitive behavioral work. Some of the things I just shared with you, these activities, these exercises, these talk through things to write stuff down can really be very beneficial for calming down your fight or flight and your vagus nerve. And so, yeah, so definitely take a look. The cards are fantastic. And even just, we've talked about here, I've got my fidget spinner. The pen, you can get these on Amazon too. There's a little ball in there. Just the act of redirecting physical movement while you're breathing. You may use a pen with a little fidget spinner in there. You may have fidget spinners of your own. Could just be something that you mindlessly let your brain relax while you're touching it, rubbing it, playing with it. A Rubik's Cube, great for vagus nerve. Although if you get frustrated because you can't get that Rubik's Cube to work, might be a bit of a stressor, but nonetheless. So that's generally what I wanted to share with you about anxiety. And if you are struggling with anxiety, you know, there are some great supplements that you can use. Magnesium's great. Some of the ones I'm going to talk about with insomnia, I absolutely love. For anxiety, low dose GABA, GABA. It's really good to use with theanine or take theanine by itself. But generally, magnesium throughout the day, a low dose. There's some great powders. Again, these are some of the things you can find on Amazon, or if you reach out to us at Magnolia Bee Wellness, we can send you the link for, we deal with about almost 50 vitamin companies that are third-party tested, and they will give you the purest, most beneficial supplements. The thing with supplements, when you go through the digestion process, you don't get 100% of the vitamins. So you're getting a good boost, but it also takes vitamins some time to build up in your system so your body gets regulated and always has a little bit of it left over in it to kind of build up. But supplements generally have good effects, rarely have side effects, because many of the supplements are things that your body naturally makes or naturally absorbs. But theanine is a great supplement to take to relax you. Magnesium, same type of a thing. But again, if you have more specific questions, you can always reach out to us and ask a question either at magnoliabeewellness.com. We've got a contact form, or you can actually text our office at 904-377-1196. And don't forget too, we can probably pop it up there. But the other aspect of things for both anxiety and what we're going to talk about now with insomnia is Magnolia Cell Patch. And we've got a variety of different patches. Yeah, thanks for putting that up there. These patches have a naturally organic way through lighting up the light through the skin into your blood vessels, and it helps the body to produce stem cells. That stem cells are healing, they're nutritive, they help with pain. We have a patch that helps with insomnia, and they're very good for anxiety. You just put a patch on. I think I have mine on today, and you put them on the front or on the back of your shoulder. You can put them down in the hip area, and they really do a wonderful job. I've used them myself now for the last 5 years, and from start of the day to the end of the day, I'm always able to keep things going, and I feel energized. I feel good. But between the cell patches, make sure you take a look at Magnolia Cell Patch. And let's jump in. I want to share a little bit what I've known, but some of it is kind of new. But people always come to me for medication for insomnia. And really, how many of you struggle with sleep at night? It's really difficult when you want to go to sleep and you lay there and you look and you count stars, you count sheep, you use the TV, you scroll through your phone, you do all these different things, and you just can't go to sleep. Many people will try different prescriptions. The sad part with oh my gosh, I can't even talk. The sad part with prescriptions is some of these meds become very habit forming. And while they'll knock you out, they also have a lot of other effects on the body. So some of the things that you're going to find with Dr. Jacobs' book, he was around, I guess, back in the 90s and is still working his career. But what he developed through the Harvard Medical School was to use a non-drug treatment plan that actually can teach people that are suffering with insomnia to become a normal sleeper in about 75% of the time. And the other 25% can either reduce or eliminate sleeping pills entirely. A couple key points that I have to get out to you guys. He speaks specifically on the number one way to improve and solve insomnia is through CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. This is something that you guys need to understand. You're not going to go and be healed and go home that night and sleep, but literally in what he's sharing in his book, in 6 weeks' time or less, you're going to develop the right tools and skills to realize you don't necessarily need something to help you go to sleep. If it was me, I always recommend a natural sleep aid over a medication, and I would recommend a medication far over a Scheduled II type drug like Ambien or Lunesta and those kinds of things. And he actually speaks about them here. He said on average, people who sleep 7 hours, he said people that sleep longer than 8 hours don't necessarily have a better quality of life or live longer than people who sleep 7 hours or less. And he shares that, CBT has helped people fall asleep faster than sleeping pills without side effects. In the study that he did, he shared that people over 60, the side effects of sleeping pills outweighed the small benefits, and senior citizens were twice as likely to experience side effects. And how about this? How quick are we ready to put people on dementia? Short-term memory loss, headaches, daytime fatigue, nausea, motor vehicle crashes, and dizziness. He goes on to talk about CBT. It's not that it's not available, but people tend to not know that these services exist, or sometimes there's limitations with their insurance. So I think people tend to ask for a pill or an over-the-counter medication because it may be more expensive to get some type of therapy. But he will also describe that in sleep clinics, think about this. They are directed by pulmonologists. They specialize in sleep apnea, not insomnia. So many physicians and patients aren't familiar with it because it's not well advertised. And the big promulgation to all this is he speaks specifically about CBT being crowded out by the sleeping pills, Ambien, Sonata, Rosarum, Lunesta. They've all become available since 1990. And there's become a dramatic increase in the sleeping pill prescriptions, 60% from 2000 to 2005, with over 43 million prescriptions. So, that was some 20 years ago. More recent data, the numbers are staggering. But what they don't want you to know, he shares, is that many of these newer medications, including Ambien, Lunesta, they all carry the same risks of the other ones: daytime sleepiness, cognitive impairment, dizziness, unsteadiness, loss of coordination, dependence, detrimental interactions with alcohol, and also rebound insomnia. And rebound means you get to sleep tonight, but tag you're it. You're going to be unable to sleep tomorrow night, so let's get that Ambien on board. And so it's almost a game that sets you up for success to have to want to need the medication. With some of these meds, and I've experienced this with patients as well, they're not as common, but people will sleepwalk, especially on Ambien and Lunesta. Sleepwalk, sleep driving, temporary amnesia, memory lapse, hallucinations, or abuse. So that's another reason why these meds are Schedule II drugs. They also carry long-term effects of a higher mortality. And he also talks about using these medications has been demonstrated to show in studies that they have an increased risk of death from cancer. I mean, a lot of things can promulgate cancer, but again, just one more reason to maybe consider something besides these heavy medications. Many of these studies looked at the older uses of barbiturates and benzodiazepine. And remember, they're all in the same category. A couple other really key points that I think are super important. Why is it that so many doctors prescribe these medications? And I just love this. Primarily because direct-to-consumer advertising has convinced the public that these drugs are safe and effective. And pharmaceuticals also achieve this, and you've all seen this, by exerting significant control over the information that reaches physicians, the media, and the public. Here's what he has noted, and he's been out there a long time to have done the research. They design clinical trials, they analyze data that maximize benefit, but they minimize the side effects in order to make the drug look safer and more effective. They focus on the statistical significance of the very small benefits, but they ignore the facts that the benefits generally are clinically meaningless. And I love this one. Are y'all listening? This is a good one. They bury the studies that show negative results. The FDA won't release unfavorable research that results without the drug company's approval. So if they don't want you to know, you're not going to know. Where did we just hear that most recently? I think it may have been with somebody just asked, Tylenol. And Tylenol, what it does, it turns your glutathione production off in your liver for 24 hours, meaning anything that you normally would get out of your body that's not good for it, it just lets it sit there and marinate. So toxins build up. And if you take it on a regular basis, you basically have shut it down for as long as many days and hours you take Tylenol. Here's the other part of this. The pharmaceuticals hire public relation firms and the academic scientists as consultants and speakers to trumpet biased studies as breakthroughs. And lastly, he talks about many scientists and clinicians, including himself, no longer view studies funded by drug companies as reliable sources of information, and nor should you, because these studies should be viewed as very thickly veiled marketing strategies. Be skeptical of what you hear about sleeping pills. So just in that little tidbit of information, doesn't it want to make you go buy the book? Buy mine too, but because you'll hear the truth uncensored. But this is quality. And this, if you struggle with insomnia, you definitely want to get yourself a copy. Further, he says there's little sound evidence that insomnia is clearly linked to any health problem, which is why a recent review on insomnia by the New England Journal of Medicine and the National Institute of Health say State of the Science Conference on Insomnia did not cite increased morbidity and mortality as a consequence from insomnia. I mean, have you ever heard of anybody dying from insomnia? Good point. So claiming that sleep loss is compromising our health requires a great leap of faith and only worries more people into insomnia and sleeping pills. And again, while I talk about the triangle of good sleep, good activity, and nutrition, generally my founding principle to get people to feel better, some people require less sleep. Some people may get woken up during the night. There are things that you can do. And he's got the most fabulous sleep hygiene discussion in here that we probably won't have time to get to, which is why I've got to get the book. But let me just skip to a couple other key points I really want you guys to know. Here's what this is going to do to improve your sleep. Learn how to handle negative emotions, stress-related symptoms, how to handle effectively headaches, GI problems, anxiety. Didn't we just talk about that? And anger. Strengthen and function your immune system. Improve your health. Quiet and control your mind and body. Heighten your peace of mind. Think more positively, optimistically, which traits that you can recognize to improve your emotional well-being. And realize the powerful effect that your mind has on your emotions. These are all the things that, again, you can read it in the book, but you can be guided through cognitive behavioral therapy. He describes insomnia as something that can reside within you, but it also resides within you to learn how to relax and release and heal yourself from insomnia. He finds that he's treated behavioral medicine, mind-body interventions with those types of methods. Insomnia represents probably the most successful application when using his technique. So I think this is going to be super helpful to many of you out there. He talks about the brainwave changes, and most folks learn to fall asleep in 20 minutes. Their sleep quality and their mood really improved. They were more mentally relaxed, and sleep was maintained better. And just to give you a snippet, the 6 weeks of what he goes through are changing your thoughts about sleep, sleep-promoting habits, lifestyle and environmental factors, the relaxation response, learning to think away your stress, and developing stress-free, stress-reducing, and enhancing attitudes and belief. The thing of it is, you have to put it into practice. And again, is it harder than taking a pill? Maybe a little bit. But again, if you just want a quick fix, then you get the lasting benefits of the side effects. And I don't know about you, he even does a little stress inventory scale. So, we won't go over that today, but, here's the thing. Stress is so powerful. How could it not factor into keeping you awake at night? We talked about that with anxiety. I almost feel like anxiety and insomnia tend to go hand in hand. People have all sorts of anxiety, and it crosses the gamut, right? Let's deep trauma, sadness, depression, woe, loss of loved ones, loss of job, loss of good things happening in life, severe anxiety, worry about this, worry about that. If we can get you to come into a world and teach you how to work through these things so you can calm yourself down, breathe, relax, let your body, we talk about meditation, we talk about healing. If you haven't given it a try, then you really need to. If you have given it a try and you remember how maybe it started to help you and benefit you, let's get back to the foundation. We can do a lot of things to heal the body. And when your body is calm and your body's not in fight or flight, your cortisol level goes way down. When your cortisol level goes way down, you're going to have a better time sleeping. So that means you've got to figure out ways to get through some of the stressors in your day. And I'll be honest with you folks, a whole other day we'll talk about ADHD because we started talking about that a few weeks ago. But how much is too much? I have people that come to me all the time and they'll say, well, you know, I can't concentrate, I can't focus. Two things. One, are you doing too much? Or are you doing so much of what you don't like? Maybe you need to change your plate. Think about it. So last couple things. Fidget spinners. Love the fidget spinners. Somebody had a question about that. You can make anything you want. I feel like my head's up in the clouds. Let me adjust this. You can make anything you want a fidget spinner. I got a hair clip. You know, you can just kind of play with the hair clip. You can open and close the hair clip. You can use paper clips. You can buy a pen. It's got a little roller ball on it and just fidget with it. My favorite one, and I don't have them handy, but I do have this. If you ever get one of those smooth stones, those smooth stones are so soothing and they're usually cool and they're calm and you like rubbing on them. The brain, it's a squeeze ball. Squeeze the ball. One, it's great exercise for your forearm, but squeeze the ball. Play with anything. Get a Rubik's Cube. You can make anything a fidget spinner, but I love them. And a lot of times, if you're in professional places, you can have one under the table. Nobody knows that I'm sitting here in sweatpants, right? You can have a fidget spinner under the table and do your thing. Or like a pen. People sometimes twirl a pen. I don't twirl them very good. So today, I hope we answered a lot of your questions of how you can feel better and how you need to face your fears, face your trauma, face your anxiety. The best way to do it is to get cognitive behavioral therapy. There's lots of places you can go. If you're not sure where to go, drop us a line on magnoliabwellness.com. Send us a text message, 904-377-1196. We can help refer or suggest where you can go if you're not local to the area or local to the state. I'm in Florida. And lots of stuff. We talked about the vagus nerve. Learn more about your vagus nerve and how to relax it. Again, these things are not expensive on Amazon. Vagus nerve deck. And the book, Rebel put that up for you guys a bunch of times, but Say Goodnight to Insomnia. I've got all kinds of tips, tricks, and toolkits. At the end of the day, let's think about this. We are in the time of our lives where the stress is as high as it's ever been for all of us. You've got to filter through the noise. You've got to quiet your mind. You've got to find ways to soothe, relax, and heal. Get the excess off your plate. If you're worried and stressed, the only thing you can control, oh yeah, that's a top seller. They call me Harriet. Pick that one up on either Amazon or you can get it on my website. I don't know if we had it at the bottom of the screen, but it's www.pattigillino.wellness.com. And if you can quiet your mind to just what your own inner circle, what can you control in your life? Everything to the exterior that goes beyond you and your family, you've got to shut out the noise. And there's always a narrative. I don't know if my friend Matt is on from our podcast on X, but it's tell a vision. And whatever you see out on the mainstream media, it's probably as good as dinner and a show. You believe a little of it, you question a lot of it, and you come up with your own decisions. If you folks take control of your mental wellness, you are going to feel a whole lot better. You're going to live a whole lot fuller, and you're going to live a whole lot less stressed. I promise you, anxiety will decrease, your insomnia will get better. And hey, you may only be somebody who needs 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. The last tip before we go for insomnia, if you're really struggling, get up for the next 5 days, go outside, watch the sun rise. You don't have to look at the sun, but look at the light. And that day, do not go lay down until you feel tired. Get up the next day for the next 4 days, watch the sun rise, and you will feel your sleep will reset. You'll feel better. You're setting your circadian rhythm. And they even wrote about it in the book, and it's something I learned a few years ago. It really works. So you guys will be back next week, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's been so much fun. I love the questions. Don't forget to dial in or send us a text question if you have one off the air. We'll see you next week. And if you want to watch the show, you can pick it up again on iHeartRadio. Just go to wellnessuncensored.com with Patty G. Talk to you soon.